celebrate the fact that you are here and to recognise the work that you are doing in every single part of this country. I think if there is one thing that I have become aware of is the negativity and the doom and gloom that seems to paralyse almost society at the moment. And yet, as I look around this room and as I've travelled over the last 5 months and indeed for many years, I see heroes in every part of our society. Heroes like you who are working in our communities, trying to improve not only the lives of yourselves, the groups you work with, and indeed your entire community. And here is the truth. It is you, the people who work in the voluntary and community sector, you are now the glue that holds our communities together. And you are the leaders at local level. And the President, if they are anything, they are to be a leader and a shining example and light to reflect what you are doing on the ground. And it is true that the answers will not come from the top down. They will most likely come from the bottom up. And I believe that the President can play a role in being a conduit between both. For me, I step forward for this presidency in a sense of hope, inspired by 21 years of active and energetic presidency. I said last night the role hasn't been expanded. The role has been transformed by the two previous presidents. Mary Robinson drawing on her background as a humanitarian campaigner to move forward with a theme, a purpose, as she called it, for an inclusive Ireland, because 21 years ago Ireland needed to become more inclusive and continues to require to become more inclusive. Mary McAleese stepped forward, authentically building on her background in the north, understanding the issues and passionate about the resolution to build bridges and, much more importantly, to build peace. And I think she has significantly contributed to that. For me, I want to bring enterprise. I want to put community, and I want in particular to put disability and inclusion at the heart of my presidency. And I'll start with community. I grew up in a rural village where community was what I knew, where the key was in the front door, where neighbours dropped in to visit each other for a cup of tea because they were just passing. And in the last 15 years we lost the sense of who we are, our community. We lost the sense of even knowing who our neighbours were. And in fact, in the last 15 years with the boom in housing and estates, people didn't know who were their neighbours, and they didn't even know who were the strangers. And in a sense, we built big houses and put electronic gates on them to keep out the very communities which would support us. And the older people, with the increase now in emigration, the young people from our communities have effectively been sucked out of those communities, are now forming part of communities in Australia, in New Zealand, and in Toronto and Canada. And it was great to watch last weekend Ireland beat Italy. But there was sadness in it that many of our young people who were there were not there as tourists, they were there as emigrants, using their skills and their energy and their intelligence and their creative and innovative skills to help build another country. I want to put an end to that. I want to give them the option to stay at home so that they can contribute to build a new Ireland. Community is where we're going, and the very fact that you, by your nature, have come together, we are tribes, we come together to support each other. This is community of the community organisations. Why? Because we need to come together to get support. That's what we do, and I witness that in every part of the country, whether it's small business, whether it's emerging entrepreneurs, whether it's voluntary and community groups, or whether it's those who are recently unemployed. We are coming together more and more on the ground because we know it is in the collective that we can support each other. It is in the collective where we can be most powerful. But also, there's another value in coming together, and that is the shared learning that takes place among all of us. You can learn strategies, and you can learn about what other people are doing in their area and how that shared learning can move forward. I'm delighted too that now we're beginning to recognise community leaders. I was at the event of the People of the Year where Joan Freeman at Pieta House and the work that she does is being recognised. We're beginning to go back to real values. There is a degree of return to core values. I think a return to common decency, born out of a shared vulnerability that we are all in this difficulty together, and the only solution is to work together to come forward. I met Mary Griffin on the way in from the Travellers Group in Cork, and it's not insignificant that in 1985 I shared a 2-year course in community and youth development with the first traveller, Tom McCann, who ever went to third level college. At the end of 2 years I went for a placement to work and live with Michael McDonough and the travelling community in Navan. It's not insignificant that he now has moved on to enrol in a doctorate programme, having finished the same programme in youth and community work that I did in Maynooth back in 1985. The truth of it is, I started out as a youth worker and community worker. It is that philosophy about building on our strengths, about finding our sense of confidence and resilience that moves me forward now to do this. But above all, it is that gene that drives me and that has motivated you to get involved. Rather than sitting on the fence, to step forward because you cannot step back. It is that gene of self-determination that means that your communities will not happen. They will not grow on their own. They need to be developed and shaped. And it is us, not as passengers, but as the drivers, that will create that change. The future doesn't happen to us. The future must be created by us. I grew up with a disability. I grew up visually impaired. I never led with it. I can't see your faces. That doesn't matter, because I lead with my ability. I say to the young people I work with now who have a disability, and I'm chairman, patron of the Association of Supported Employment, most people can do 10,000 things. I can do 9,000. My life has to be defined by the 9,000 things I can do, and not the 1,000 things I can't. And on Sunday I shared with a group of people what drives me as the greatest example for helping those with disability. To be the message, to be the living embodiment. That 40 years ago, when I struggled through school to read small print, not being able to read the blackboard, and teachers thought that I was a slow learner that would never amount to anything. Last week, that young boy who couldn't read 40 years ago handed in his papers to be the president of this country. To me, that's the example I want to set. Thank you.